What a magical milestone to hit. Your baby's finally ready to start on solid foods. But we might have concerns about this. How do we know whether or not our baby is ready to go? There are a few signs and signals that you want to pay attention to, and there's no problem whether or not they're ready today, ready tomorrow, or they become ready and then they regress slightly. It's all part of the development process. The key thing is to be with your baby, love your baby, show them some guidance through this part of the process, because clearly they're just small children, they're learning every day, and bonding with them is the absolute goal key that I had in my heart and still do whilst raising my kids and going through these teething years. I remember clearly my oldest, she used to play the drop game. Picking up the food, bam, dropping it on the floor. It was part of the play process. And of course, we nurtured her through that with the spoon, with all the airplane games, all this kind of stuff. But the key question you want to answer is my child ready to go? So we're looking at about the 6 years of age time in their life. They've started to get more head control. They're sitting up well on their own. They're getting a bit of movement on the floor even, on crawling, getting ready to walk. Oh, that's another milestone we'll talk about in the future. By and large though, if you're not 100% certain about whether or not your baby's ready to go into that solid eating phase, consult your physician. They've got an immense field of knowledge in this region. They've got years and years of practice, seeing different babies, understanding their different nuances and all the rest of that. But this is what's worked for me, and I hope it works for you too. I noticed that my baby girl was starting to sit up. She had that head control, and we wanted to get her transitioning away from purely breast milk formula into eating solid foods, for her to enjoy the array of flavors that come with all of these different kinds of foods. So you might be wondering, what types of foods should I use? Well, it's very common to use vegetable or fruit purees. We really enjoyed using things like sweet potato and banana and avocado and things like that. Things that have a bit of fiber, some starchiness about it, something for their mouths to grip onto, a bit of texture, as well as that flavor. Not to mention they're all natural foods, which in essence are going to provide some great nutritional value along the way, along with that flavor. If you're starting on the purees, make sure your vegetables are really well cooked so that they blend up nice and smoothly, giving a nice rich, creamy texture to your baby. You don't want them choking. Another option is where you cook those vegetables out nice and tenderly, and then the baby is actually able to mash them up with their fingers or an implement that you might provide, and then they can start to learn how to feed themselves. That's called baby-led weaning. So in your head, you've got this picture. You can see you're feeding, the airplane's coming in, darling. Oh, and in it goes. And the very first sensation that you see come off their face is like this. Don't be surprised if that happens. It's a new taste, it's a new texture, it's a new flavor. This is super common. I saw it so many times. Of course, you're gonna be tired through the child rearing years because you've been up late, you've been up early for work or all of your baby related responsibilities, and you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling tired. But I want to encourage you to take great amounts of self-regulation with deep breathing so that you're not putting excess pressure on your baby to eat. I know you might get impatient, you might want to get the job done quickly so you can move off to playgroup or kindy or daycare or your job, any of these kinds of things, but as much as possible, try to have that patience when feeding your baby this new regime of solid foods and get excited about it. Okay, so we've taken care of a couple of ingredients you might use. Google the rest. There's so many to choose from that you could really give some enjoyment to your baby's feeding needs. But what you might not realize is what you actually need in order to feed your baby. So if you're gonna make your purees at home, you're gonna need some kind of blender, a pot to boil your vegetables in, and a spoon and a bowl to feed from. Otherwise, it's really difficult to feed your baby. I thoroughly encourage you to use soft plastic spoons and bowls. That way, if and when, make no confusion about this, they are going to hit it out of your hands at different times. Maybe it's a game, maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's by accident. Either way, expect a little bit of mess. You're also gonna need some bibs. What I used to do, I live in a very warm country, so it's not too risky of them getting cold or chilled. I would take off their shirt and I would put a nice rubber bib on them that had a little catcher thing down the bottom, and then I would feed them, and a lot of the time the food would get spat out or dribbled out and would just go into that nice little catcher on the bottom of the bib. I've also used cloth bibs in the past, and they're fantastic for wiping. And why that's so important is because if you get a whole lot of stuff around their mouth, it's uncomfortable for them. Sometimes the food are a little bit warm, a little bit cold, and you want to remove that excess from their mouth so that they can get used to feeling the sensations of eating in a proper manner. Not just about the flavors, but also the act of eating itself. And it saves you time in the long run as well. Now, going back to that initial sensation, which could be more like, ugh, remember, it's a new thing, so you're gonna have to train it in a little bit. Don't just feed them the food, see that they're not enjoying it straight away and remove that food. Give them a second, a third, or even a fourth try to work out what this flavor really is, figure out if it tastes good to them. Give their senses and their taste buds the opportunity to develop an understanding of the characteristics of the texture, the characteristics of the flavor, and to make a more informed decision. It's all intrinsic, it's all autonomous and unconscious, but yet this is the kind of process we want to go through, because what happens down the track if you don't give them a chance to enjoy it, they don't get the variety of the foods that they really need to be strong and healthy. Now, of course, hunger and thirst go together. They're a part of an ecosystem. So your child's going to be hungry and they want to eat. Well, keep yourself a little sippy cup of water on the side for them to drink from. And of course, you can have formula or breast milk, which has been expressed into a sippy cup as well. You're here because you understand that this is a challenge for both you and Bub, and I want to encourage you to embrace that challenge because it is super, super rewarding. Despite the fact that there's going to be food, milk, water, potentially all over your eating place, just be prepared in that essence. A couple of other things you might like to do is if you've got a high chair, it's going to be plastic so you can wash it off. You can take it outside and just give it a hose, or you can wipe it down with some baby wipes after they finished eating and sanitize it and all of the rest of those kinds of hygiene things. What you also might want is a nice food safe plastic mat on the floor. So if you do have carpeted areas, or you do have areas you'd rather not clean, you put that mat down, they spill the stuff onto the floor, but it's caught by the mat, and that can then be hosed off outside as well. Getting back to the reward, when you do feel that tiredness, when you do feel that fatigue and that resistance from your child to eat, remember what you're doing for your child is such a great, powerful thing. You as a parent have taken the leap of faith to make this beautiful little child, and they're reliant on you for their nutrition, for their sustenance, for their housing, their clothing, and everything. Just remember how amazing that is for them to feel the love that you give them through all of those things, as well as all of the gestures, the hugs, the kisses, the food, the feeding. Isn't that such a rewarding thing to give another human life? And to know that you're going to be guiding and nurturing this person through all of their trials and tribulations. I can tell you, I understand it tests the patience, but it is super rewarding when you come at it from an intentional point of view that, wow, look what I'm creating here. Look what we're creating here is beautiful. All of this information comes from the research and the experience that I've had as a dad of 8 years, almost 9. And I hope it gives some value to your life and makes your parenting journey just a little bit easier.